Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are talking about a massive shift in the world of sales. You see, in an age where AI is everywhere, the old playbooks, they're just not cutting it anymore. It's time to get back to basics, back to first principles. Okay, so let's kick things off with this really powerful idea from an AI researcher named Rich Sutton. He talks about something called the bitter lesson, and what it boils down to is this. It is way, way more effective to build a system that can learn for itself rather than just stuffing it with everything we think we already know. So hang on to that thought, discovery over programming, because it is absolutely central to everything we're about to unpack. And that idea tees up our first section perfectly. We're going to dive into this huge conflict that's been bubbling under the surface for like 100 years. It's this tug of war between timeless, enduring truths and just following a set of specific instructions. And believe me, this isn't some dusty old academic debate. It's a full-on battle happening in sales teams right now. So, at its core, this whole thing is about principles versus methods. Here's a great way to think about it. Principles, they're like the laws of physics, right? They're the why it all works. They're general, they're adaptable. Methods, on the other hand, are like a recipe for a very specific cake. It's the step-by-step how-to. It's rigid, and it only really works in that one context. And you can actually see this shift happen over time. If you look back, for decades, business was all about deep, principled thinking. You had guys like Emerson and then W. Edwards Deming, whose principles literally rebuilt Japan's economy. But then the internet happened. Suddenly we had instant answers for everything, and our patience for, deep thinking just kind of went out the window. We all started chasing the quick fix, the easy hack. This whole idea really hits home with this story from an old school sales boiler room. So you've got the new hires, right? They're handed these super rigid scripts, the methods, and they're just bombing, call after call. But the top performers, the real killers on the floor, they weren't using a script at all. They were masters of the principles underneath it all, things like voice modulation, tone, pacing. They knew how to adapt on the fly because they understood why it worked, not just how to read the words. So, okay, this fight between principles and methods has been simmering away for a long, long time. But now AI has come along and basically thrown a giant can of gasoline on that fire. It's triggered this massive upheaval that we're going to call the asymmetry inversion. And trust me, it has completely flipped the script. Just look at this timeline. It's like a 3-act play of the buyer-seller power dynamic. In Act 1, pre-internet, sellers held all the cards. They had all the info. Simple. Act 2, the internet comes along and boom, it levels the playing field. But now we're in Act 3, the AI era. And the power hasn't just shifted, it's inverted. For the very first time in history, a buyer can show up to a meeting with more and better information than the salesperson. That's the inversion. And what this inversion has done is basically create a huge divide, splitting the entire sales profession right down the middle. On one side, you have what we'll call sales pros. These are the people who treat selling as a true craft. They're thinkers, they're learners, they adapt. And on the other side, sales associates. They're still stuck in those old methods, just going through the motions. And in this new world, well, they're being left behind, fast. Which, of course, brings us to the big question. Why? Why are all those old playbooks failing so badly all of a sudden? Well, the answer actually comes from a couple of interesting places: economics and machine learning. To really get it, we have to talk about something called Knightian uncertainty. It's a fancy term for a simple idea: the unknown unknowns. These are the things you literally cannot see coming. We're talking about stuff like a global pandemic or a competitor dropping a bombshell new product out of nowhere. There is no playbook for that. And that's exactly why these rigid, method-driven systems are so incredibly fragile. And you know what? That fragility has a name in the world of machine learning. It's called overfitting. It's what happens when you train an AI model so perfectly on the data you have that the second it sees something new, it just completely falls apart. And that is a perfect description of what's happened to so many sales teams. We've overfitted them. We've trained them to perfection for a world that, because of AI, just doesn't exist anymore. So this really leaves sales leaders with two paths forward, right? You've got strategy B, which is the old way. Train everybody on your one perfect method and just cross your fingers and hope the world stays the same. Good luck with that. Or you have strategy A, the future. This is where you run lots of different plays at once. You're constantly testing, seeing what works in the real world, and then you filter out the rest. It's about building a tough, adaptable portfolio of tactics that are relevant today. Okay, so if the old playbook is totally broken, what do we replace it with? And here's the twist. The answer isn't a new playbook, not at all. It's a whole new kind of system, an evolutionary one, built from the ground up on a set of core principles. So what does this actually look like on the ground? Well, it's a huge mindset shift. Forget the one-size-fits-all playbook. Now you're managing a portfolio of different approaches. Instead of forcing everyone to comply, you use what we could call selection pressure. You see what's working and you double down on it. Everything else, you cut it. It means you're running fast, small experiments every week instead of clinging to so-called best practices. The bottom line is, you're not just running a plan anymore. You are building a system that learns and evolves. And this right here is the key takeaway. The goal isn't the perfect call anymore. That's old thinking. The new goal is to build a team that is resilient, a team that can handle whatever the world throws at it. It's about thriving in uncertainty, not trying to eliminate it. All right, so we're building this new, adaptable, evolutionary system. That's great. But what about all that stuff we already know? What about all those famous sales methodologies we all spent years learning? Where do they fit into this new picture? Yeah, this is the question on everyone's mind, right? Do we just take everything, spin, challenger, medic, all of it, and just toss it in the trash? And the answer is a big, fat, definitive no. But, and this is a huge but, their role has to change. They can't be the entire system anymore. They're not the rule book. They're tools, just really, really useful tools in a much bigger toolkit. Here's exactly how to think about it. You wouldn't use spin selling to run your entire sales motion, right? It's a questioning technique, so you pull out that tool when you need to ask better questions. Medic isn't your grand strategy. It's a fantastic checklist to make sure a deal is properly qualified. The challenger sale? It's not a personality type you have to adopt. It's a powerful technique you use when you need to help a customer see their problem in a totally new light. They're specialized tools for specific jobs. So let's wrap this all up. The bottom line is this. In the age of AI, the winners aren't going to be the teams with the fanciest method. The winners will be the teams with the most adaptive system. A system that's built to diversify its tactics, measure what's working, and select the best path forward. It's a system that doesn't just survive change, it actually gets stronger because of it. And that leaves us with one last question. And this one is for you. Take a hard look at your own sales organization. In this wild new world of inverted power and nonstop change, are you still trying to polish up that old, static playbook? Or are you building a living, breathing, evolving organism? Because that choice, well, that's going to define who wins and who loses from now on.